As he went a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, who were in their boat, mending the nets. Immediately, he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. You see, most of us have heard this story of the calling of Simon and Andrew and the Zebedee brothers many, many times. Most of it, us, have probably heard it preached almost as many times as we have heard it at all. We may even remember, I certainly do, being taunted by a preacher, or most deadly of all, by the secret guilty voice inside ourselves. They even managed to sneak that taunt into the collect for today. It always sounds something like, ask yourself, would you ever, could you ever respond the way these first disciples did? Leave everything you've ever known and loved and cared about to follow unquestioningly. Just drop whatever we were holding on to at the moment and follow Jesus into a way of life outside any box we or they had ever known. I am thinking even that not only are we thinking we would never have had such a strong enough faith to make such a radical change in our lives, but you're probably also thinking right now, oh Gad, where is she going with all this? Probably someplace way too scary and way too much like walking on water for my poor little faith. Why did I decide to come to church this morning, of all mornings? You're right. I might have known we were going to be asked to do something impossible. And I am simply not the kind of person who could ever have this kind of courage. And I'm not, absolutely not a risk taker. And I'm certainly not a powerful enough believer. That's all there is to it. I can't even imagine how those fishermen could have just up and followed him. No way. I could never have that much faith. And besides, after all, somebody has to remember those poor bereft families they left behind that day. But, dear saints of St. Luke's, I don't think this is a story about leaving everything behind, wrenching ourselves out of the boat and abandoning our loved ones. I don't think it's a story about those first disciples leaving their lives on the Sea of Galilee and spending them forever after on the hot, dusty roads of dry land and desert. I don't think it's a story about any of them, or any of us, actually. I think it's a story about God. That's why we began with the question, what if we had never heard this story before? What if we didn't think we knew what we were supposed to get out of it? So, let's listen to it one more time together. As Jesus passed along the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people." And immediately they left their nets and followed him. As Jesus went a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, who were in their boat, mending their nets. Immediately he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. Now, picture it. the Sea of Galilee that day, listen without our preconceived ideas. I think that what there is to see is Jesus walking up to 4 busy fishermen, somehow interrupting the rhythm of their work. And without so much as a single interview question or introductory explanation, saying, "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people." And immediately they left their nets and followed. There was no build-up, no PR, no, "Where are you guys from, and what do you think about God?" Nothing. There was nothing. Just Jesus standing before them and saying, "Follow me." And they followed him immediately. That's the whole report. It doesn't say anything in the gospel about how hard it was for them, or how much they sacrificed to go with him. It doesn't say anything about being heroic or holy. It doesn't say anything about them needing to whip their spiritual lives into shape and decide to risk all. It says Jesus walked up to them, asked them to follow him, and they did immediately. It was easy, apparently. That's what I hear. It was easy. One moment, they were mending their nets, and the next, they were more eager to go with him than to do anything else in all the world. Nothing could have stopped them. Why? I think precisely because this is not a story about fishermen, but a story about God, about the power and love of God, which in this story comes to them in the person of Jesus. The love of God stood before them on that strip of beach. That strip of beach where they had worked almost every day of their lives. And something huge happened to them. I doubt that Peter or Andrew or James or John could have explained to anyone exactly what their hearts had always really, really longed for. But that is what they received that day. It was, as the psalmist said, "For God alone my soul in silence waits." And God is all my safety, all my honor. The love of God stood before them with all its power to release them from every evil and every human trap, the ones set for us and the ones we set for ourselves. The love of God and its power to transform us, to free us to be exactly who we really are, whether we know what that is or not. The love of God and its power to make clear to us that, as Paul said, the present form of this world is passing away. The love of God and its power to redefine all the relationships of our lives into their true reality. The love of God and its power to create followers and faith we never knew were possible. This is a story stories are really the same story. Jonah wasn't a story about Jonah or the Ninevites. It was a story about the love of God that is so compelling, it makes it possible for us to lower our guard, to open our hearts. To know our sins are forgiven. To take away our guilt and fear. In fact, to fall in love. Because that's what really happened that day, I think. They fell in love with God. The good news Jesus came to announce is never, never, never about our spiritual fortitude. It is never about our pilgrim grit and determination to get it together. The good news is always about God. Peter and Andrew and James and John and you and I do not follow Jesus because our faith and will are strong enough to bite the bullet. We follow Jesus because he has what we're looking for. But our hearts have always longed for. You know, if those first 4 fishermen had not followed, then they would have been giving up everything. Instead, God's whole kingdom came to them. And since the good news and the coming of the kingdom in our lives is never about our own strength and fitness, but about the power and love of God, it can break into our lives and transform us any time at all. Probably when we're least expecting it. When we're mending our nets, or gardening, or marketing, or suffering, or dying, or scared, or exhausted, or worried, or walking, or working, or playing, or watching the Seahawks. The power and love of God can set us free and change the way everything and everyone looks. Anytime, anywhere, immediately. It could happen this very